Hello, everyone, and welcome. Let's just make sure we're good to go here. All right, looks like we're live. And looks like we're live. So, welcome, everyone. My name is Terry White, Worldwide Design and Photography Evangelist for Adobe. It's my pleasure today to stream for the next couple of hours on photo restoration. So I'll tell you the story in just a moment, but I want to just lay down some ground rules and tell you what's going on, especially for those of you watching the replay. If you're watching the replay, this was a live session that happened on Tuesday the 16th at 10 a.m. to noon. If you're watching on replay on YouTube or Twitch, this is a show that I do Tuesdays and Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. So occasionally throughout the show, you'll see me look over at my chat pod, which is on another display over here, and I will say, hello, hi everyone, how's it going? Hey Victoria, hey Lemo Leo, hey Dream Float Joe, and everyone else that's here. Hey Paul, what's going on? And if I missed you with a hello everyone else. So there'll be times that people post questions about the thing that I'm doing or just anything in general. And if there's a question, since you can't see it on the replay, I'll try to remember to repeat it or restate it as I'm answering the question. So let me just check a couple more things here. Looks like everything else looks good. Here, let's go on this one. And let me go ahead and host this on my Twitch channel, which, by the way, is twitch.tv/Terry L. White. Let me do a quick analysis of the stream. The tweet went out. Everything looks good. Okay, so someone said, what are we talking about today? As I just said, we're talking about photo restoration, as it also says in the title. Make sure my do not disturbs on my devices are on as well. All right. Looking good, looking good, looking good. Okay, so with that said, thanks for joining me live. If you are joining live, today's topic is photo restoration. So I had a death in the family. My father passed away on January 29th. Thanks for all the condolences that I received online from all my fans on my Facebook page, personal condolences and everything else. And I appreciate all that. But what it also gave me a chance to do is reflect not only on photos of my dad that I had, but photos I hadn't had or didn't have yet that were at my grandmother's house. And also just the importance of metadata and tagging and making sure that everything's searchable and findable. Like when I was pulling everything together that we needed for the program and sending to relatives and things like that, it just reminded me of how important my Lightroom catalog was, how important it was to be able to quickly find things. And in the case of the photos that I went and captured over the last couple of weeks when I visited relatives, by scanning them or shooting, taking pictures of them, how important it is to take those things that only exist in print, digitize them, and in this case, we're going to restore a few of them. So with that said, thanks for joining again, and today's topic is photo restoration. Now, I don't profess to be a photo restoration expert. I've done some photo restoration, what I consider like as a hobby, just old photos I've done in the past, whether it be fixing a damaged photo, color correcting an old photo, or colorizing a black and white photo. I've dabbled in all of those things, and in some cases I've had to do all of them at once. So the photo was damaged, it was bad color because it had faded, and it was black and white or just not color, and I had to colorize it or wanted to colorize it just to play around with some of the features in Photoshop. So I've been doing this probably over the last, let's see, it's 2016, probably the last 14, 15 years as a hobby, as a weekend kind of project from here, from time to time. But today we're going to take a look at the process of definitely restoring a couple of old photos that I, again, first time. In some cases, these are the first time I've seen these photos, meaning when I went and scanned them last weekend. Didn't know they exist. They were like buried in some photo album or buried in some frame behind another picture, like on my grandmother's piano. So things like that, I was able to go back and capture, and now we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of that photo restoration process. So again, let me divert my attention over to the comments just to make sure I'm not missing anything important. And again, thanks for the condolences here on the chat. But we're going to move past all that right now and get right into the photo restoration. All right. Okay, so let me switch gears so you guys can see what's going on here. Now I'll switch cameras. And I will also show you a few examples that I've done in the past and what we're going to work on today. Paul, real quick, can you explain the scanning process? Certain ways they need to be scanned in. Okay, so Paul, there's really two ways that I will use. And of course, these are not the only two ways. In the case of the photo we're going to work on today, they were scanned with just an inexpensive Canon flatbed scanner because I knew I was going to be traveling. I knew I was not going to really be emotionally prepared to do a big setup for capturing old photos. And I just wanted something I could do kind of relatively off to the side without a big production. So it's been so long since I've owned a scanner, I had to go actually buy one. So I ordered a Canon LIDE 120. So if you go look that up on Amazon, it's like a $50 scanner. Not even that great of a scanner, but it did the job. Because again, I knew the photos weren't that great to begin with. It's I think a 600 DPI scanner. So I would say that if you're really going to do this, like if I were really going to go do this and do this right, I probably would want either a 1200 DPI scanner just so I can get a bigger file, or I would want to shoot the photos with my DSLR. So set up a tripod situation, perfect lighting, the whole 9 yards, where I'm shooting down or at the photo straight on, and that way I'm capturing a 36 megapixel RAW file. And I could do whatever I want at that point. So it really depends on how much time and investment you want to put into the scanning process. Since these are old snapshots, some of them are kind of small. That's why I'm saying you want the higher resolution so you can scan and get a bigger file so you can make enlargements. So that was my thought process. And I think the best, if you have the opportunity to shoot them with a DSLR, meaning take a picture of the picture, that might work out best because you're going to end up with a RAW file that's large anyway. The only problem with shooting a photo of a photo is that you're going to, you have to get the lighting just right so there's no glare, no reflection, and you have to do your best to shoot it straight on. So that takes a lot more work and setup to get that perfect angle and that perfect shot. And of course, you might need a macro lens. You might need a special lens to do it with. So it just really depends on how much time, money, and investment you want to put into it. So hopefully that answers it. Yes, that is a Cintiq. You see, it is the newest one, the 27Q QXD, I believe. Their latest and biggest and baddest Cintiq. All right, so I said I would show you some examples first. So let's select this one, and let's go there. So here's an example of a restoration that I did, I want to say about 10, 12, 13 years ago, something like that. Where again, I was totally new to this, and I would say it wasn't that I want to say I didn't know what I was doing, meaning I knew how to use Photoshop, but I didn't know what I was doing in terms of photo restoration. So I just looked at it pixel by pixel and said, okay, What can I fix in this photo to make it look better? Now, you'll notice all the damage on the left side of the frame, the left side of the car. And a lot of times what your brain will say is, oh, God, it's going to take forever. I got to fix that. But what you got to look at too is that an important part of the photo? Is anyone really going to care if that half inch of the photo is there or not? So you'll notice I cropped off more of it than I repaired. And no one cared. When I showed this photo and you don't see it side by side, no one's going to say, hey, there was a half inch more in that photo that we don't see now. Because no, that wasn't an important part of the photo. So don't worry about it. Same thing with the bottom of the tire. Now I would probably want to experiment with trying to repair that missing piece of the car, missing piece of the tire, just to see if I could do it. But back when I was doing this restoration, no one's going to care if they don't see this bottom part of the photo. So if it's a not so important part, don't spend hours trying to fix all these scratches unless you just have hours to spend and you just want to experiment and play, then trying to fix stuff like that. So that was my thought process in restoring this photo. So once I got rid of the areas that aren't important, then I was able to focus more of my time and attention on the areas that were left in the photo that are important, things that I wanted to fix. Now, the thing about this particular photo is it was like literally this small. It was a real tiny photo. So I scanned it as big as I could with the scanner I had at the time. And I was also using Photoshop, whatever it was, 12, 14 years ago, CS3s, whatever it was back then. I don't even remember what version of Photoshop. Now, what I want to do is I want to start over. I want to take the original photo with all the new things I've learned over the last 10, 12 years, all the new tools that have been added to Photoshop, and do it again. We're not going to do this one today because literally this one would take the entire 2 hours or more for me to do it, to get it to get it even close to looking like it looks now. Because this was a multiple hour, multiple day restoration. Like I would work on it a little bit, stop, do other things for the next few days, work on it a little bit more until I was finally able to get it decent. Now, if I look at that photo, it's nowhere near perfect, but it's at least now decent, meaning I printed it, framed it, looks great in my living room. But there's, if I zoom in on that photo, there's still lots of little scratches on their faces, lots of little micro things that are going on that I just, didn't have the right tools or the right time to do it back then, or B, I just was lazy and didn't want to do it because no one's going to zoom in on it once I'm finished. It's going to be printed and in the frame, and you will never see those scratches. But now I do have the right tools and the right techniques and the right things to work on it. So I'm going to start this one over again. Not today, but I will start this one over again and do it from scratch. And have that one as my inspiration to say, don't give up. You can make it look good. But I want to see how much I can do now with the tools that we have all the way in CC 2015. Okay. Just checking for comments. Okay. How would this work or do with old Polaroids that have yellowed? Well, as you can see in this photo, it's quite yellow. The color correction is part of the process. You got to also remember, every single example I'm going to show you today is a photo that's really, really bad and really, really old. This photo has some yellowing in it. That's the least of your worries. That's not going to be what takes your time. What's going to take your time is all the damage that's been done to the photo. So if the photo is a Polaroid, if it's a slide, if it's a negative, if it's a whatever and it's in really bad shape, it's not that it can't be done. I've seen photos where like literally half the entire person's face was missing, and I've seen people restore it and make it look right. So it's all about technique and time, how much time you want to put into pixel by pixel editing to make it look right. The yellowing, that's the least of your worries. It's really the damage that's going to take your time. All right. Well, Rotten Biohazard, I appreciate you being here. All right, well, Paul Weaver, again, like I said, I'm a hobbyist when it comes to photo restoration, so you may know more about it than I do. But we'll together take a look at some photos we're going to do today. All right, so let me show you one more example. And again, this is one that I would like to do again someday. Now that we've got better tools, better scans, better image quality, and the whole 9 yards. This one was a color, not only a photo restoration, but a colorization. So I wanted to experiment with the color, or actually, we didn't even have a color replacement tool back then. We do now. But I wanted to play around with the paint brushes and the color option in the paintbrush to go in and see what I could do to make these photos look like I imagined they would have looked had they been in color. So this is, and by the way, I always love it when someone who's not in the industry looks at it like a family member or whatever and says, well, how did you know what color their clothes were? And I just laugh because obviously I didn't. This is just me putting colors on. No, I don't know if my grandmother's dress was purple or not, but it's purple now. Deal with it. And most of the people in this photo, if they're still around, wouldn't remember either what color their clothes were. And if they did, they can correct me, and I'll be happy to correct the color of their clothes. Now, the thing, I can look at this photo now, years later, and say to myself and know that I did not do a good job. If I look at most of the eyes in this photo, I didn't touch them. They're still black and white eyes. And it's not so much that that's a problem. It's more that the eyes are gray, meaning not white. They're grayish in color. And I would now know better and go in and correct that. I would go in and say, okay, let's work on the eyes on each person, especially if the eyes are wide open or up front, like some of the kids down at the bottom of the photo. And let's take the whites of their eyes and not make them gray, but let's make them more natural. So I'd spend a little bit more time doing that today. And again, this was I also did this photo years and years ago in earlier versions of Photoshop. And you can see even with the background had been somehow ripped out of this photo or covered or something stained it or whatever. And I did my best to clone the existing background and paint the existing background over it so it would be a complete background going across the photo. Of course, that's a photo backdrop back in the day. The other thing I like to do is my mom's eyes were closed. So I'd like to find an old picture of her with her eyes open and replace the eyes and open up her eyes in that photo. And I would, again, take some research and time to find the right photo that would work in this case to give her a second shot at having her eyes open in this photo. That's probably, of everything in this photo, that bugs me the most, is that her eyes are closed. And it's not something I didn't restore. It's just that's the way it was in the original photo. So I'd love to go back and figure out a way by, again, getting an old picture of her and finding a way to clone or replace the eyes with an open version of the eyes. But that's kind of what I've been doing over the years in working with photo restoration. And hopefully this inspires you to take a look at some of your old photos and see what you can do with them. And I can also tell on my cousin's suit here, which is still in black and white, and what gives it away is the shoes are still black and white. I just said, we'll let that go. He was wearing a gray suit that day. And it was just because I got tired and didn't feel like trying to colorize his suit. But what I would now do is at least make the shoe the right color, or a color, not the right color. I don't know what the right color is. And maybe the socks. But I just kind of, again, just got lazy on that one and just said, whatever. He's wearing a gray suit with a white shirt. It's okay. So you will, of course, take the time to do what you do to make your photos look better. All right. Have you ever tried a portable scanner versus a flatbed scanner? Well, I've tried a portable flatbed scanner. I don't know what you mean by portable scanner. Did I make up those colors? I absolutely did. Because I have no idea what the original colors were. All right. Hey, Jason, welcome. Good morning, dude. What's up? Oh, you can't see his shoes because, sorry about that, because probably I was blocking it. Let me hear. Let's bring it back up. Here, I'll bring it up by itself. Let's see if you can see it now. Okay, yeah, you should be able to see his shoes now. Okay. Oh, the scanners that look like a long stick where you just kind of scan it across the page. I haven't used one of those since literally like the first time those came out, and I just wasn't really that thrilled with them. So no, I've not used one in recent years. All right, so you guys now see what I'm talking about with the shoes. So I kind of left his suit gray, and again, the giveaway here is the shoe being not, it's really not black, it's really not gray, it's black and white like the photo. So I would at least, if I'm going to keep the suit gray, I would at least go in and colorize the shoes and the socks. And now I'm even seeing that that should be his skin tone in the shirt where the collar's open. Missed that earlier. There's a little bit of blue down here I missed. And again, these are all things that you can spot easily years later when you go back and relook at your work. So that's something I would then take a little bit more time the next time I do this. And of course, I could just open up that photo and just fix those couple of things, but I kind of want to do it from scratch now that we've got better tools. All right. Yeah, some of those clothes may have been, in fact, black and white, but I wanted to colorize them. Okay, so let's start with the photo we're going to work on today, and we'll start the photo restoration process. And again, this is not a sprint. This is a marathon. This is the kind of thing where it's not, if it's a bad photo or I shouldn't say a bad photo. If it's a photo in bad shape, it's not going to be a quick fix. It's not going to be I click 3 times and I've got a magical, great looking photo. Because if that's the case, if you could click 3 times and you have a magical, great looking photo, then the photo probably wasn't that bad to begin with. We're talking about photos that are in bad shape, that have had bad things done to them, that haven't been cared for, or just deteriorated over time. They sat in a photo album for, 30, 40, 50 years, and they just don't look good anymore, or they've got damage done to them. So those aren't the ones that are going to be a simple click three things in Photoshop and they look great. So here's the one that I want to start with today. I have 3 planned. We may not get to all 3, but I've got one that's a photo restoration black and white. I've got this one, which is a color photo that's got some really bad color on it now that I kind of want to correct. And then I've got just another photo restoration. We may only get to 2 of them. We may only get to 1 today, but I've got future episodes where we can continue. All right, so let's go ahead and first of all, as I always do, whether it's a photo restoration or whether it's a photo shoot that I just did yesterday, I always get as much done as I can in Lightroom first before I head over to Photoshop. Now, by no means am I ever going to even think I can do everything I need to do these photos in Lightroom. Only because even if I could, it would just take a lot longer than doing it in Photoshop. So Lightroom's great. Is completely non-destructive. Lightroom does a lot of cool things. But when it comes to photo restoration, Photoshop's just got way more tools and can do it much faster than you can do it in Lightroom. But that doesn't mean I don't want to do as much as I can in Lightroom first. So we're going to start with this photo in the develop module. And we can see some obvious issues with it. Number 1, it has tape on it. Nice big yellow pieces of tape. Oh joy, that's going to be fun to deal with. Number 2, it's crooked. Number 3, it's got a weird border around it. Not only the black border of the scan, but also the white non-straight border of the frame itself of the photo. And again, you have to ask yourself how much of that is important enough to keep. In other words, do we really need this white border on the top left and right side? We need it on the bottom because that's where his feet are. And notice back in the day, they didn't bother making the backdrops come under the feet. They just went down to the floor. That was it. Or at least this photographer did. And also, even the backdrop itself is not even all the way down on the sides. So those are, again, the kinds of things you have to look at and say, what's worth restoring versus losing, and no one would care. So in this case, I'm going to say that the border on the left, right, and top is not important to me. The border on the bottom is. And of course, the other parts of this that need to be restored, I'm not even going to bother with here in Lightroom. I'm going to bother with more in Photoshop. Now, there's also a low contrast in this photo. It's old. I don't know how much contrast there was to begin with. But there are things like that that need to be fixed. There's all kinds of little spots and scratches and nicks and all kinds of just stains on the photo, just bad things that need to get corrected. So I start thinking, okay, first and foremost, what's bothering me the most? It's crooked and it's got a bad border. That's what's bothering me the most right off the bat. I can't even think about anything else until I fix that. So let's go to the crop tool. We'll go to the crop tool here in Lightroom, and I know it's going to be an unproportional crop from the original, so I'm just going to go ahead and unlock the little padlock. That way I'm not constrained to the original size, and I can go ahead and start cropping this down. All right, so let's get this over. And now, of course, it's still crooked. Now, the great thing about the crop tool in Photoshop or Lightroom is that you can rotate the picture in the crop tool. So you can get it kind of lined up better with the crop, and I can say, okay, that's straighter now. And now I can go in and I can say, yep, let's go ahead and just crop it right to that edge. We don't need it. Let's go ahead and crop it right to this edge. We don't need the rest of that, and let's go ahead and crop it to this edge. All right, so now the bottom, I don't want to lose his foot, or I want to keep as much of his foot as I can, so I can only go up that far to where his foot ends, or where his toe is. All right, let's see what that looks like so far. Better. Less to worry about. But now the background looks a little crooked to me. That's just the whole proportion of this photo is off a little bit. Let me go back to the crop tool a little bit more. I may have rotated it a little too far. You do have a nice grid here, but then I'm looking at the background where now this looks straight and now this is starting to look crooked. So it's just not going to ever be perfect. Yeah, and see now that looks a little bit more, yeah, I think I like it better that way. Okay, because now I'm not so much looking at the background anymore. I'm looking at the subject and saying, is the subject straight? And now the subject's straight, even though the background is not perfectly straight. And when I look at the two, that's more important to me. Okay, so I got the most distracting thing out of the way for me. The next thing that's distracting me is just how kind of washed out and low contrast the photo is. So the contrast slider in Lightroom has been improved greatly in the last couple of releases. Also, there's a secret magic trick to setting your tonal range using the black and white slider. If you hold down your Shift key and double-click the black slider, and you hold down your Shift key and double-click the white slider, that will give you your expanded tonal range. Let me undo it and show you the histogram before. Look at the histogram before. It goes from here to here. But holding down my Shift key, so I'm holding down my Shift key with one hand, double-clicking and double-clicking will extend the tonal range, and it just gives me more tonality to work with. And it made the improvement also on the contrast quite a bit. Now, that doesn't mean that I can't continue to work on the contrast. So I can go ahead and just drag the contrast slider. It's black and white, or sepia, or whatever this would be. And we can go ahead and work on this, or give it a little bit more. We can also punch up the clarity a bit more and just make it more defined. So when we go back in history, we started here with the crop, and now we're here. So this is what we did along the way. All right, so from here to here. Big difference. All right. Good morning, Renee. And just checking to make sure I'm not missing a comment here. Yeah. Tape. I know. Tape's a big pain in the butt because they didn't want the photo to move in the album, so they put some tape on it. Make sure it doesn't move. Doesn't fall out. Yay. Okay, next. Now I could start to work with the color here, or I could work with the color in Photoshop. And what you're going to have to decide is, do you want any color at all or not? Like, in other words, that's kind of a nice warm sepia tone. Is that important to me? Or, and again, is that a sepia tone or is that just the way the photo faded? And so you have to make that decision of, is this color, whatever this color is, what you want? Or do you want to start fresh and add your own color toning later? That way it'll be perfectly what you want. So if I hit the letter V, that'll take this to be a black and white. Now again, it's just making it a default black and white. It may not be the black and white you're looking for, but it will at least give me a black and white to start with. Then at this point, I can go in and I can adjust the black and white look of this photo because it remembers the original colors. So I know I'm adjusting the orange and yellow in this photo because it had a lot of orange and yellow from the original tone. So if I adjust those sliders, that will control how the black and white looks. The other way to do it is use the targeted adjustment tool. That's what this little target is for. If I click on this, what this does is says, I don't remember what the colors were or which color was where, but I know you do, Lightroom. So I'm just going to drag on what I want to change and you move the slider for me. So for example, if I want to change his jacket, I drag up and down on the color range of the jacket, which could be other parts of the photo, by the way. Dragging up and down will, as you can see, it's moving the orange slider. If I go to the background or the plant here and do the same thing, it's still moving the orange slider because this was pretty much one color. But if there were multiple colors in the photo, that would make those adjustments. Same thing here on the shoe. That's kind of adjusting the reds and the oranges. And so you can use the targeted adjustment tool if you just don't want to play with the sliders to kind of have Lightroom do it for you. All right, so I kind of like the way this black and white's looking right now. I don't know what it looks like on Twitch, but so far so good. And okay, I've never used the, okay, so Haunted Shadows Legacy. I've never used the TWIT or the TIFF file extension. What makes it different from PNG and JPEG? TIFF is probably older than, it is older than both of them. TIFF was the format we used to not have any compression, not have any change to the photo whatsoever. The minute you save a file as a JPEG, you're throwing away data. Every time you save it as a JPEG, you're throwing away more data. So JPEG is a lossy compression format, which that's how we get small files for the internet. TIFF is that quality format that's going to hold every bit that scan gave you or the original camera gave you. And it was the predecessor to RAW. So since I use a scanner, I save these as TIFFs as opposed to JPEGs so that I wouldn't deteriorate the photo or the scan any more than the photo was already deteriorated. PNG is more of a format for the web. I don't know why I would ever use a PNG file for my scan. Just TIFF's a better format. And of course, PSD falls in the same category where both TIFF and PSD can contain layers where none of the other formats can. So those would be the reasons. Yeah, PNG uses less compression than a JPEG. TIFF uses none. So yeah, TIFF is going to be a higher res, higher quality file for working on scans like this. It's not for the internet, not for the web, not for mobile, not for sharing. It is literally for working. So put it right up there. Like I would go PSD being my favorite format, TIFF being the one right below it. Everything else below that, JPEG, PNG, whatever, for the web. All right. Okay. So that takes care of the questions. And again, I pretty much have done everything I'm going to do to this photo in Lightroom. Now it's time to head over to Photoshop. Oh, there's one more thing I would do. Hang on. One more thing I would do. I always like to apply a little sharpening here in Lightroom because it's a preset for it and it helps me to not forget to do it later. So there's a sharpen faces and a sharpen scenic. When you do the sharpen faces, let me scroll down to the sharpening. Let me undo it. All right, notice the sharpening. We could just move the amount over and it will sharpen everything. And if I sharpen scenic, that's kind of what it's going to do. It's going to just sharpen everything. But if I sharpen faces, what that tells it to do is it uses an algorithm that looks for faces and skin tones and people, and it masks out the faces automatically. So notice the mask slider will slide over when I say faces, because what it's doing right now is it's looking for faces in the image and masking them out and only sharpening the areas that are not people. So that's just a little bit of trivia on why I like these presets, because they kind of do that work for me that I would normally forget to do later. All right. Let's go. Okay, so now we've done all of that non-destructive work here in Lightroom, and we got our nice scan ready to go over to Photoshop. And I'm going to edit this in Photoshop, but I'm also going to say make a copy because I always want to be able to get back to this original. So let's do, I'll right click so you can see it. I usually just do Command E. So let's do edit in Adobe Photoshop CC 2015. And notice it says edit original because it can. It can edit a TIFF as the original. Normally, if it were a raw file, which is what I work with mostly, it would automatically default to copy because you can't edit a raw file. You can make a copy of it with all the adjustments and edit the copy, but not the actual raw. So in this case, since it can edit a TIFF, it's saying, hey, I can open up that TIFF for you and keep working. I'm going to say, no, no, no. Make a copy, edit a copy with the Lightroom adjustments I've made, and start there. So when I say edit that, it will leave that TIFF alone that I worked with, and it will make a duplicate, bring it into Photoshop, and now I'm working with the duplicate. So I'm already starting with a protected copy. For those of you who are always saying, how come you don't use more layers? That's why, because I know I can always go back to that original if I want to. All right, but when it comes to photo restoration, when it comes to especially colorizing a photo, I'm using a bunch of layers when I do that. And for those of you who are saying, why is he talking so much about layers? Because it's a long story. It goes back. I don't use as many layers as people sometimes would like me to. So here, I'm gonna make a lot of you happy right now. Let's do this. Duplicate the layer. There we go. Turn this one off. Got that backup just in case. All right, so let's go in. And now you can, when you zoom in, you can start to see all the problems with the photo. You can see the tape, although we made it a lot less noticeable because it's no longer yellow. You can see all the little issues, all the little things on the floor, everything that needs to be adjusted, corrected, fixed in this photo. And this is what I meant by there's no quick fix for this. There's no take away all the damage button, and it just makes it magically better. Now there's an old dust and scratches filter that kind of hides a lot of it by blurring the photo. Matter of fact, let's experiment with that one just for 2 seconds for the fun of it. So if we go to filter, I don't even remember where it is. It's been so long since I used it. There it is, under noise, dust and scratches. And when you bring up, and it's an old filter, here, let's use a higher radius. Not that high, not that high, not that high. Maybe something like that. Yeah, maybe if we pull that down just a little bit. Maybe bring it down a little bit more. Okay, we click OK on that and let it run. What you now have is a blurry photo that hides a lot of the dust and scratches. That's what you have. Now, you could mask out the part of the face to keep the face sharp and the person sharp and just use that for the background. But then you still have a blurry photo. So the dust and scratches probably is your quick fix, but it's not a great quick fix. It's a so-so quick fix. So let's undo it. And I'd rather have the detail in the photo and spend the time to make the photo look better. So where do we start? Wherever you want, because it's all bad. Like there's no, well, we'll start with the worst part and get that done and then move to the best parts or the easier parts. It's all where you can start in the upper left corner and work down diagonally. You can start at the top, work down. Start at the person and work around, whatever you want. So this is going to be, and by the way, I'm going to switch to a different workspace. I have a custom workspace called Terry White Retouching. And now with Photoshop CC, you can have different custom toolbars that only show the tools that you're going to use for a specific kind of thing you're using for Photoshop. So I haven't set up one for photo restoration yet, but my retouching one is close enough. All right, so when I go to my retouching preset or workspace, it puts the spot healing brush right at the top because that's one I'm definitely going to use a lot. And make sure you can see what I'm doing here. Yeah, you can. All right. And again, it really doesn't matter where I start because it kind of all needs work. And so this is kind of what photo restoration is all about. Just taking the time to actually restore the photo. And so in a situation like this, that's not going to cut it. So I could patch it or I could clone stamp it. That looks better. I know what you're waiting for. You're waiting for the tape. Let's make some changes to the tape. The tape's really difficult because, of course, there's a pattern behind it. If the tape were just on the wall all by itself, then it'd be easy. Let's undo that. Let's do content aware. But I love the patch tool because the patch tool does one thing that the other tools don't do. It gives you a preview while you're actually in the tool. So for example, same thing here, where I want to patch this line. Oops, hang on, I don't want all of that. And by the way, even if you're going to use the patch tool, here's another tip. You can use any selection tool you want, but still use the patch tool. So I want to make a nice rectangular selection, but I can't draw a perfect rectangle. I can with a tool that's a rectangle tool. So I can go ahead and say, you know what, let's get a perfect rectangle going here, like that. And then I can switch to the patch tool, and that's my selection for the patch tool. I can still just drag it without me having to make a perfect rectangular selection. So I can go ahead and patch it just like that. Same thing, just easier for me to use the rectangle tool to patch the parts of this photo that are rectangular up in those corners, and switch to the patch tool again and go and patch to a nice clean area, and we get it. All right, now we run into where it's getting a little bit more difficult because we've got the branches from this fake plant. Makes me want to put in a different fake plant from like stock or something. Just cover up. You know what? let's just replace the whole background. No one will know. And that is certainly an option that I have done. Um, because again, who's going to care what the background was, really? If you make a good new background, why not just do that? Certainly a lot less time. But we're doing photo restoration, not photo cheating and compositing today. So maybe we'll save that for another episode. We'll just say, you know what? No one's going to miss that old background. Let's put them on a different background. All right. And the background may be so damaged that you say, you know what? A different background is not only easier, but just possible, as opposed to trying to restore or clear up a background that's just so bad that it's just going to take you days, weeks, months to do. So is it really worth it to restore that background? That's a question that only you can answer. All right, so let's do some more rectangle work here. And also at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, is this for me or is it for a client? If it's for a client, then you got to kind of keep it legit. If it's for you, you can do what you want. It's for you. Oh, sorry. I moved the rectangle. I did not switch to the patch tool. If it's for you, then you can do whatever you want. It's for you. You're the client. Whatever's going to make you happy. So if you're not emotionally attached to a background that's really destroyed, why keep it? Unless you just like the challenge of restoring something that's totally messed up. But I can tell you one thing, before I would go into this one, this background pixel by pixel, I'd definitely be looking for a new background, or at least a new tree. Yeah, see that one. Hang on. Let's go back to. So when it messes up like that, when it blurs, oops, hang on. That's typically the difference between using normal on the patch tool, which I like, or content aware, which is more precise. And the reason I like using them both is sometimes I don't want it to be a dead on copy. I want it to kind of blur it and blend it in a little bit around the edges. But in a case like this where it's so close to that edge, it's blurring it too much. So that's where content aware comes in for the patch tool and just does a better job. So the question is, where can I drag this to make it look good? Right there. See how much better content aware did? So it just will depend on what it is you're trying to replace. Now in a case like this whole bar is messed up in the window pane. So we're just going to go grab a new bar that's not totally messed up. All right, same thing here. I don't know what's going on with this. All because of a piece of tape. This is all the work I have to do because someone decided to put a piece of tape on this photo. Yep, it really needed that tape. This big strip of tape really helped it out quite a bit. Thanks. All right, let me pause and look at your questions, comments, opinions, and feelings. How come I don't rock a hat like my dad? Over the years, I've tried on hats. Occasionally I get the bug to wear a hat, put on one. I look stupid in hats. I just do. I've never liked a hat, any hat I've ever put on. So I don't wear hats. My head's too big. You cut the flake plant on purpose? Probably. Is it even a plant on the left? Well, this is again fake flowers, and that's a fake, I think, tree or maybe smudges. I don't know. Looks like a plant though. Yes, if we get time machines, we can go back and say, smack them, smack the tape out of their hands. Don't put tape on that photo. Thanks, Sky. Love you too. All right. All because of a piece of tape. Now, and I've also been known to get so far into something like this and just say, I'm still not happy with it, and still scrap it and replace it with something else. It just depends on how it looks when I'm finished. So this just looks like some kind of distortion we don't really need. Oh, sorry. Had it on normal again. Where? There we go. And also, the thing you also have to look at when you're spending your time on something like this is at the end of the day, you're going to clean this up. You might spend an hour, you might spend 10 hours, you might spend 30 minutes, you might spend 2 days. Whatever it is you're going to spend on it, you have to ask yourself at the end of the day when you're done, is this what people are going to be looking at in the photo? And the answer probably is yes. If it looks really bad, like really messed up and ripped up and torn up, they will look at it. But at the end of the day, they're really going to be looking at the person in the photo. So before you spend hours fixing a background, fixing an element that's not important in the photo, ask yourself, can that element be replaced? Can it be cropped out? Can it be restored in less time? Maybe if I don't worry about every single little pixel, and spend more of that time that you have or don't have on the subject of the photo. This background's not the subject of the photo. It's in the photo. By the way, I could crop to his foot and get rid of most of this, and no one would care. I'm only doing this exercise so you guys can kind of see some of the thought process behind some of this. Especially no one would care if the photo's for me. I wouldn't care if it stopped right at his foot. I'm good with that. But I'm just going through some of this just so you can kind of see some of the tools in action and what they do. You saw what I did on the wedding photo with the car. Half inch of that car was totally destroyed. No one cares that I took that half inch of the car out of the photo. No one even missed it. No one said, hey, you know what? That car used to show a little bit more. No one's going to say that unless the car was important. If the car was, the feature of the photo, then yeah, taking some of the car out will mess it up. But if the subject is the person standing next to the car and the car is irrelevant, why spend so much time on the car? The background elements. Same thing here. This can all go. And let's get this on content aware. Now be careful. You'll quickly want to go in here and start like correcting this all at once. You got to remember that shadow is supposed to be there. That's the shadow of the bench leg. So I can't correct it all at once because if I do that, the shadow is going to be disrupted. So there's no shadow here on the floor, so I can clean this floor up quite a bit. Oh, sorry. got too close to the edge on normal with the patch tool. So when you're cleaning up a floor or a wall or anything that you want to patch and do it in bigger areas like I'm doing now, you got to get one area clean first, so you'll always be able to drag to that clean area to patch to. Otherwise, if that area is not clean, then you're just putting the non-clean area that maybe is not as bad as the other area, but you're putting the non-clean area throughout the entire wall or floor. Okay, so how do you know if where the guy is sitting is damaged and is an old piece of furniture or it's the actual photo destruction? You don't. You make that call based on what you need to do. In other words, is anyone really going to look at the leg of that chair and say there's a nick that's supposed to be there? No. So if you want to leave the nick there because you think it's part of the damage of the leg, whether it is the damage of the leg or not, fine, leave it there. Like, for example, I can tell this leg is curved in a little bit, and that's the way it really was. And I can tell this gouge right here is a gouge in the leg. But if I repaired it, either way, no one's going to care. If I go into this right now and say, I don't like that gouge in the leg, let's fix it. Let's alter the photo. Let's alter the way it looks. No one's going to care. No one's going to even notice that I did that, unless that were an important part of the photo. So that's all of this. Everything I'm doing is a judgment call that you have to make. You have to decide what's important, what's not important, what will people care about, what won't people care about. And if you're doing it for a client, then you got to talk all that over with the client, because the client that gouge may have been when he was 7 years old and he took a knife and cut that part of carved his initial, started carving this initial in this stool before you caught him, and you taught him a lesson. Then that could be a memorable moment that your client may want to keep in that leg. But if in this case, this is for me. I don't care about that gouge one way or the other, whether it's there, whether it was originally there, or whether I repaired it, because it has nothing to do with this photo. So that's always going to be a judgment call on you or your client if you're doing it for someone else. And the point is, just like with the colorization of people's clothes, you won't know what the original colors were unless you had a color representation to look at. So it's all judgment. It's all based on what you want to do, and that's bad. Hang on. Many photos that are restored have modern day, I'll call them modern day alterations to them. Meaning, yeah, someone added, changed, fixed, altered, did something in that photo that wasn't really there. And whatever it was that they did, no one cared about. It wasn't significant. It wasn't a significant historical element in the photo. This bench has no historic meaning. No one cares. It was just in a photo studio where this photo was taken. If it were in the home, it might have a historical meaning. But either way, it has no meaning to me, and I'm doing this for me. So that's what you always have to look at. Yeah, like for example, here's a scratch right here. That looks like an actual scratch in the wood. That's not a damaged part of the photo. Keep it, don't keep it, don't care. That's up to you to decide if that scratch should stay there, if these scratches in the wood should stay there or not. Now, I would say that because of just the age, looking at this bench, looking at all the scratches up here, it's supposed to have some scratches because this was not a new bench. So all of these chips and pieces missing here, I'd probably leave there because that's not a damaged part of the photo. That's just the way the bench looked. Again, they have no significant meaning to me one way or the other. I don't care about that scratch. If I thought leaving it there or taking it out would matter, I'd do one or the other. Don't care. And in my case, for those, I'll leave them because they don't change the photo one way or the other. This might have actually been a hole in the backdrop. Don't care. Has no meaning to me. Because the only, and here's another thing to look at. The only time that it would matter when I'm doing it for myself is if it's got to stand next to the original. Meaning, if people are going to look at them side by side and say, hey, that hole was supposed to be there and you took it out, then that would matter. But in the case where this is whenever I'm finished with this, this will be the photo, and it won't matter. Because when this is printed, when this is in a frame on the wall, and you're looking at it 4 feet away, you're never going to notice that stuff. Now that might have been an actual piece of lint on his pants cuff. Who cares? Taking it out, whether it was supposed to be there or not, because it doesn't matter. So you'll have to make those calls. Paul Traney's in the house. What's up? Let me see if I missed anything. Is there a new anti-blur function that does it work well in a photo like this? Well, there are sharpening functions that continue to get improved in Photoshop, and I've already sharpened it once. I may sharpen it again at the end of the day, but a blurry photo is a blurry photo. Keep that in mind. Sharpening can only do so much. Now there is a new shake reduction for camera shake blurs that works very well. But if this were a blurry photo, it wouldn't be because of camera shake. It would be because it's a blurry photo. So I would say that if you've got the opportunity not to use a blurry photo, then don't use a blurry photo. So this one's not blurry. It's not gonna, sharpening this is not gonna make that much more of a difference. It is what it is, and it's just the quality of the cameras also back then too. All right, let's see what else we've got here that I may have missed. All right, I think I got everything else. All right, Paul Traney, how was your sabbatical? Paul Traney went to fun places on his sabbatical, and I'm sure he had a great time. No problem, Lino Leo. You're welcome. Different things will always bug different people. What's important to one photographer or one restoration person will be not so important to others. So if something's bugging you in your photo, by all means, take the time to make it not bug you or bug you less. What's bugging me right now are these lines going across, and of course there's still quite a bit of damage down in here that I have to yet figure out what I'm going to do with. All right. Sometimes, like when I'm working on a spot like that, I'm kind of like, I know I'm not done, but I just want to break from it. Meaning, yeah, I still got a lot more work to do in that area, and I kind of need a mental distraction or break from what's going on over here that still needs a lot of work. Then what I will do is go work on something else and come back to it. Meaning, go work on another part of the photo. And whatever's bothering me on that part of the photo, then I'll come back to if I don't resolve it all right away. So I know I got a kind of a thing to figure out down in here. I know what I kind of think I'm going to do, but I'm not ready to try it just yet. So in that case, I'll come over here and work, because over here needs some love too. Over here's got different problems, different things going on, and I can always go back and work on the other thing. And then if I look at the subject, which is the most important part, that's where I would really want to spend most of my time anyway. And so, like I said, don't ever get, and this is a lesson I learned years and years and years ago, um, by watching, I think it was Scott Kelby, when I watched one of his first photo restoration videos. He did something in that video that stuck with me from that point on. And it was an old photo like this, and instead of the plant being in the left corner, it was like an old radiator. Like just that part of the radiator was just simply destroyed. It would have taken hours to fix the radiator. And then he just cropped it and cropped it right out of the photo. And he said, is anyone really going to miss that radiator? And I laughed out loud watching that video, because he was absolutely right. Once the radiator was cropped out of the photo, you didn't care. It was gone. It had no meaning to that photo whatsoever. And then he spent the time retouching the subject, or restoring the subject. So don't get, and what the lesson behind that, and the lesson of what I'm trying to show you right now, is don't get so caught up in the parts of the photo that don't have any significant meaning. If it has historical value, then yeah, go ahead and restore it. If it's something that means something to you in that photo, go ahead and restore it. But I could care less about this backdrop. I've already spent more time on it than I really wanted to. So I'd more than likely think about swapping it out or cropping it out as much as I could, because I really don't care. I just want this photo of my dad sitting on a bench. So don't get so hung up on, well, it's in the photo, I have to keep it. Why do you have to keep it? What law says you have to keep it? Now, if it's for a client, that's different. The client may want you to keep it. But if it's for you, you can do whatever you want. It's your photo. So keep that in mind when you're restoring old photos and you're about to spend hours restoring part of a photo that no one will care about, especially you, if it's your photo. And I always remember the car. And like I said, remember that half inch of the car that would have taken me a lot longer to fix. And it was just easier to crop a half inch of that photo out of the car, or half inch of the car out of the photo, and no one missed it. And especially me, since the photo was for me. The only way I know that half inch was there is I go back and look at the original sometimes. And it's like, oh yeah, yeah, remember how bad that was scratched? Good thing I didn't spend any time on it. Waste of time. Don't care. I'm zoomed in so close I don't even know what I'm fixing here. Whether or not it even deserves being being fixed. But let's. Oh, I see more tape. Yay, tape. Strips of tape. Crop equal win. Yes. Yes, this is a 27 inch. Um, why am I drawing black dots everywhere? I'm not drawing black dots, I'm actually removing them. So what I'm doing is I'm taking these black dots and dragging them to an area that doesn't have black dots to get rid of them. Now, for those of you who, I think some of you probably just got here, I did start with a duplicate layer, so let's zoom out. See how much better that looks already? But let's zoom out. Let's see where we started. Before, after. Before, after. So, if you start to look at the background, look at the tape, look at the floor, look at the areas on the pants and the bench and all that. That background in the right-hand corner where we had some little strips of whatever that was, tape or other marks. When you start to take away a lot of the little things, the photo looks a lot better. So again, could I crop half of this out of here and not even worry about it? I could, but I'm going to keep it just for you guys. So just keep that in mind. This is where you've come from just in the few minutes we've been working on this so far. All right, let's go back and continue. Ooh, I see a big problem there. Let's go ahead and zoom in. All right, so let's get some more of this. Tape, yeah, yay, tape. Your grandparents' dream to keep the photos in place, putting tape right over the front of the photo. Probably what led to someone inventing double-sided tape. They probably had to work on a photo and said, I'm never going to let this happen to anyone else again. I'm even trying to figure out what this damage is. Looks like little holes in the photo, but I know the photo didn't have holes on it. I know if these are specks of dirt, stains, or what they are. I'd have to go back and look at the original. Nah, let's put it on top, right? Or my favorite. No, what beats tape is when they actually write right on the front of the photo with an ink pen. That's even more fun. Now, the historic, oh, that's a bad one. The historic value is you do have that person's handwriting, but then if they wrote something that you don't care about and it's right on the front of the photo and it's taking it out, or distracting from it, then you got to take it out and decide what you want, or decide what you want to do with it, whether you get rid of it or not. So working on a lot of little things like this in the big picture, when you zoom out, they make the big picture look better. Zoomed in, no one's going to zoom in on this. This is going to end up being a print. So this is the kind of stuff no one will actually see up close. But if you get rid of a lot of it, it just makes the print look better. So I know, like, I'm just like kind of just quickly doing this, and some of this is blurred and some of this is not totally accurate, and I may be copying an extra leaf or backdrop part somewhere else that it shouldn't have been on, but at the end of the day it won't matter, because you'll be focused on the subject and there will be kind of this background going on that you don't care about. Now, a lot of photos are missing pieces on the part you care about. And the people that restore those photos, I got to commend them, because they actually take something that wasn't there and make it there again. Like, they actually go in pixel by pixel and either clone or draw what should have been there. Because there's no choice. It's the subject. So you can't skip it. You can't crop it. You can't kind of just fake it. You can't replace it with something different. It has to be the actual person that was in the photo. So when you're doing that kind of restoration, I just, again, I've seen people do it. I've seen the results, and I'm like just in awe of their work. Luckily, I've never had to do one of those. I've never had a photo that I need to restore where a big portion of the main subject was missing. I've had big scratches. I've had other things that I've had to take care of, but not missing, like not a hole in the middle of the photo where I've had to make it look like the original photo in that hole. All right, I think that will be sufficient for what this is going to be. All right, let's zoom out and take a look at that. Yeah, it looks okay. And this is still bothering me. Hang on. Now that line might have been part of the original photo, but it was distracting to me. There, no line. Okay. Now the other thing that's kind of distracting me is this, I don't know, this cloudiness in the background next to him. Got these kind of dark patches, so they got to go. Because they're too close to the main subject, and therefore they will distract or detract from it. So I'm just taking these panels, these window panes, and I could be more accurate using like a rectangle tool like I did before, and just patching that part out. And in this case, oh, hang on, let's see what I can do. This is why you definitely want a tablet for this type of work. Trying to do precision patching with a mouse is going to cause you to stab someone, and we don't want that. All right, let's put this on content aware. There we go. That looks nice. So we'll do the same thing here. Let's do it here. And of course, there are other selection tools. You could use the pen tool. You could use the polygon lasso tool. You can use all kinds of tools that have perfect edges to them. But in this case, I prefer to freestyle it. Because it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be good. Ooh, that's not big enough. That one's big enough, but it's not clear enough. That one may do it. Let's see. Yes. Now it's going to leave a little bit of an edge because I didn't get close enough. So we're going to go ahead and take care of that right now. Oh, wrong tool. That would be why. I'm like, why isn't that working? Check your settings. There we go. And what that last patch did was it introduced a shadow that wasn't there, and I don't want it to be there. And there was some shadow already there that I can now see that it's okay because I'm going to blend it in. So don't worry about the noticeable white stroke. I'll take care of that in a minute. Just want to get close enough to the ear, close enough to everything else, take it out, and then I can blend it in. Alright, so now we use the patch tool on normal to select that area where we have the hard line and just blend it out. Oh, too close to the ear. I got that line, I can go. Same thing down here. And of course you can zoom in if you need to and do more. But yeah, see there was a natural shadow going along that edge anyway. Or maybe that wasn't. Hang on. Let's go back. Maybe I introduced this shadow too, but we're going to take it out. All right, see you later. Thanks for watching. Now those panes look so much better than these panes now. So, all right, I'll think about how I'm going to clean that up in a minute. Time for the rectangle tool again. And switch to the patch tool, and we switch to content aware, and then we can patch that perfectly. Too perfect. Let's go back and get some more. That's better. Yeah, I'm going to need more. Problem is the window panes are taller at the bottom as you go down the backdrop than they are at the top. The fake window panes, that is. So let's go there. What I'm doing is just getting rid of a lot of little streaks going across the window pane by patching them out with window panes I've already cleaned up. Oh, it keeps wanting to snap to that edge, drive me crazy. And no, I don't like that one. I want this one. There. All right. Yes, I'm actually an Adobe employee, and this is like a job. I've always said I have the coolest job on the planet. You didn't believe me. Now, another method you can use, if it's just a matter of lightening that area up. So here, let's do the whole thing. We could just bring up either a levels adjustment layer or levels themselves and just kind of lighten that pane up. And then move it to the next one. Don't want to get the jacket though. Same thing. Levels. and make those panes just a little bit brighter. Now this one's going to require a, well here, let's do this. Let's grab this selection tool. Let's go ahead and select it. We're getting part of the jacket that we don't want, but that's okay, because then you can switch to, let's see if I can find it here, the lasso. Hold down your Option or Alt key and just subtract the jacket out of it. By lassoing that part. So lots of different methods to clean up things like that. Now there's some scratches on that bar next to his face. And the closer you get to your subject, the more likely it is you want to make sure things look a little bit better, because that's the part people are going to be looking at the most. So I just want to clean that up a little bit more. I still don't like it. All right, zoom in, do it right. Cut off too much of it. That's better. That's better. Now I don't like the way it's cut in right there. Now, before this stream ends, I just realized we've got another 27 minutes and I'm not going to be done with this. I will bring up another photo because I promised to show you a little bit about color correction. And it was one of the, I think it was like by far the most challenging photo I've ever had to color correct, because none of the methods that I'm used to using worked. So I had to go back old school and use other methods that I had used in the past, and they kind of worked. But it really took multiple passes at it to get it to look the way I wanted it to look. And again, it's one of those things I'm used to photography where you've got a nice white balance eyedropper that fixes white balance, but that's only if the white balance is the problem. If the photo just has a nasty tint to it, white balance isn't the issue. Here, let's do this. Now look at the difference. Look at all the window panes around his head. Again, it's just these little things you do to clean it up, to make your subject stand out more in the photo. All right, keep going. So this is what I meant when I first started saying this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's continuing working on things, lots of little things, to make the photo look better. And the little things don't even necessarily have to be perfect. They just have to be better. Yes, you will be able to watch the replay here on Twitch or on my YouTube channel at terrywhite.tv. Sometimes I just can't get it straight. Let's see. Oops. There we go. All right. What the hell is that? I have no idea what that is. But it's going. I don't know. It looks like a bug actually, but anyway, let's get it out of there. A pin? Ladybug? Don't know. Has no significant relevance to the photo as far as I'm concerned. Okay. Sorcery. Will I recolor this? Not today. Maybe. All right, but in a few minutes here, a couple minutes more, I'm going to stop, save this, show you the original where we really came from, and then we'll continue this maybe on another stream, maybe on my Friday stream. We'll finish this one off and then work on some more if you guys like photo restoration. But what I really want to do in the next few minutes is show you a color correction challenge I had with an old photo of my sister. And like I said, it was a photo that it literally took me multiple tries with multiple techniques to even get the color close to what I wanted. And it was just because nothing I was used to doing was working. It just had this nasty magenta tint to it, and I just couldn't get it to look right until I did. And I got a quick, easy fix for the background color. That was easy. But then the skin tone was still off. So that's what I had to go in and fix manually. Yeah, back to this plant, this fake plant in the fake backdrop with the fake leaves. Oh God, no, it's still not right. The fake leaves that are bothering me. So I tried to cheat and do it all at once, and I can't. Certain things just require more effort. I'm serious they're going to crop off this edge though. That edge is, I'm not even going to waste time on this edge. It's going. And I won't care. Alright, so now we got some missing leaves here that need to be cloned back in. Same thing kind of going on down here. So let's do this. Let's make a selection of these. Now, even though I'm using a patch tool, it's still a selection tool. It doesn't matter what you do with it. As long as I don't drag it, then it won't patch. All right, so we duplicate that onto its own layer. Use the move tool, move it down. Maybe put that one right here. And then we can use, I don't know, blending mode maybe to blend it in. Let's try multiply maybe. No. Overlay or screen maybe. No. How about soft light? No. Too light. Hard light. Alright, we're going to leave it on normal. I don't like any of these. Normal. Alright, so what we're going to do instead, just add a layer mask on that. Go to our black brush. And we go to the brushes on 100. And we'll mask out the pieces we don't want. Oops, too much. And we still got some work where they meet up, but for the most part, we put that leaf back. All right. All right, so now that one. Oops. Got carried away. Forgot the objective. Tried to go too far. All right. And then that needs to be cleaned up separately. Okay. More work to do in that area for sure. Let's go ahead and save now. Should have been saving all along, by the way. All right, we saved. We're going to close it. I'm going to switch back to Lightroom. Now that puts it back in Lightroom next to the original. I'm going to select this one, and I'm going to, the original, and I'm going to make a virtual copy of it because I want to show the progression. I want to show where we started from. So in that virtual copy, I'm just going to reset everything we originally did in Lightroom. So this is where we started today. And this is where we ended up. What do you think so far? Yep, what I saved, well, you saw it already. Went right back to Lightroom. And this is where we came from earlier today when this stream started an hour and 47 minutes ago to where we are now. And again, we're not done, but if I printed that right now and stuck it in a frame, people would think it was a great photo. I'm not finished because there's no more things down in here that I know I can do and make better. But just where we are now compared to where we were in just a few minutes. Well, several minutes. But, and it's not hard, it's just tedious. So I might, color in that backdrop where it meets the floor so there's not that white line. I might crop in a little bit, but maybe not. Now that I'm looking at it, I'm okay with that backdrop looking the way it looks. Then, of course, I got to still clean up this leaf, which is really destroyed. I got to still clean up some area over here where it kind of looks blurry and fuzzy. Maybe lighten this up a little bit. Clean up this leaf right up here at the top and down here on the side. And then it'd be frameable at that point. Anything else you do is just for taste. You're making it better. You're cleaning up little bits and pieces. But this was the photo on the left, the original that came out of that scanner. And this is where we are right now. And I'm not even done. I'm not even close to done right now. But I've come a long way in a short amount of time with making this photo something I would put on the wall. All right, so with that said, let's go back. And now let's take a look at my color challenge. I'm just going to go ahead and open it up in Photoshop. And who's up next on the stream? Moderators, let me know so I can give a shout out to whoever's streaming in the next 11 minutes. All right, this photo's got all kinds of issues too. Got a big line across her chin, big scratch, big something. It's got little specks of crap on it. I don't know what this yellow stuff is, but little specks of stuff on it. The color is completely trashed. The color is way off on this photo. And of course, it's got all the normal restoration stuff that needs to be done to it. But before I even begin fixing scratches and blemishes and all these little yellow marks and all that stuff, it looks like it actually has a stain on it. But before I even get to that, the color is driving me nuts in this photo. And so first thing I thought, oh, I'll get this. I'll fix this right away. Filter, camera raw filter. We'll bring it up in camera raw. We got this great white balance eyedropper, and this looks like this should be gray in her blouse here. Oh, yeah, that's kind of still not right. Because the problem isn't white balance. That's not the problem. So white balance, cancel, not going to do it. So like I said, this is what I meant by I'm so used to digital now where a simple click with the right tool will fix it. because the problem is white balance or is something that was in the digital capture or what's on screen. This is a different problem. This is a faded photo, and the computer has no way of knowing what color this was supposed to be. So I thought, okay, what did I used to do? Because forget all the new stuff that's digital. What did I do back in the day? So back in the day, I would have gone up to image. I would have come down to, first of all, letting the computer have a crack at what it thinks it should be. Auto color. The background looks awesome now, except for all the stains. But the background's the right color. She's not, but the background is. Oh, crap. Okay. Halfway there. So we got half the photo looking right. We got the background looking right, and here's the problem. Now I don't want to mess up the background trying to fix her. So let's duplicate that layer. And now let's work on her without touching the background. And in order to do that, I had to separate her out. So let's go ahead and use any method of selection you prefer, but I'll use the quick select tool. We're on a duplicate layer. We're just going to go ahead and select her quickly. Let's make sure we get all the little pieces of the blouse here. I missed the piece last time I tried this. Looked kind of silly. All right, we'll get all this down here. So whenever you make your selection, do a quick once around, go around. Yeah, see I was missing part of that edge. Look around the edge and see what you're missing. Because it's easy to get excited and think you got it all when you really didn't. Or you might have gotten too much. Like I didn't get this edge either. So take your eyes, walk your way around the photo, making sure you got it all. Okay. So around the hair, around the edge, missing a little bit up there. Great. Missing a little bit here. Great. Around. Missing a little bit of that edge. Okay, great. Missing a little bit of the collar. Great. Around. Okay, got it. So now we're going to do a refine edge. And we're going to just soften that edge up a little bit. And right now it's showing it to us, you can say show it to us on white. That's what it would look like so far. And see, I'm missing part of that chin. I think I did that last time. So let's get the chin in there. All right, let's try it one more time. Refine edge on white. Okay. And again, we'll clean it up a little bit. Soften that edge up a little bit. And we'll go in. And keep in mind, it's going right back on the same background. So it does not have to be perfect hair. But we can go in and adjust that. And clean up the hair a little bit too. Okay, great. So now she's separated. We're going to separate her out on her own layer with a mask. So if we need to clean it up some more, we can. And now, boom, she's on a layer by herself. Awesome. So now I can do anything I want to that layer without affecting anything else. Okay, so on that layer, the next thing I want to do is an adjustment. We're going to do a levels adjustment. So we're going to go to our adjustments panel. And I never realized what the icons are. I got to look at them. There's levels. Levels adjustment. And again, levels, if you just do RGB, is kind of adjusting the levels of midtones and all that. We don't want that. We want to go in separate channels. So I don't know. Sometimes I just start on blue for some reason. I don't know why. And you look at the histogram and you say, okay, what's missing? Some stuff at the front here. Now keep in mind, it looks like it's affecting the background, but it really won't when I'm finished. And okay, let's just tone that a little bit. That's starting to look more like her. Then we go to the green channel. Same kind of thing. Oh, that's too magenta. Maybe something more like that. That's starting to look like her. And then on the red channel, just dial that in. Nope, I liked it better on the blue. There we go. Okay. And again, I know I trashed the background. Don't worry about it. Because what we're going to do is we're going to hold down the Option or Alt key and tell it to only apply. Right now it's applying to the whole thing. I only want it to apply to the layer below. So hold on the Option or Alt key, click in between the layers, and now that adjustment has only been applied to the layer below. So again, working with that adjustment, old school, kind of going back to layer levels and curves, we can start to make the skin tone look a little bit more realistic. Still not quite dialed in where I want it to be, but I can still play with that some more and continue to work on it until I get it where I want it to be. And maybe I also mask out the blouse. Maybe I just do this on her skin, because the blouse is now starting to be affected by this. And it's really more of a skin tone issue. So if that were the case, I could still, the adjustment creates a mask. I can go to my brush tool and I could say, you know what? Let's just not have it affect anything else but her skin. Let's mask out all of this. And of course, you do a smaller brush, get in closer, zoom in. Uh-oh. I think I did the sticky thing with the mouse thing again. Hang on. Let's go ahead and finish that off real quick. Some button I press on this by mistake causes it to disconnect. Okay, we're pretty much gone here. All right, so then that gives me a basis to at least start the color correction. And maybe, again, if I don't want the color correction in her hair, I can mask that off too. All right. Okay, so with that said, that's, I got like 3 minutes left, so let's jump back to my main screen. That's just a little bit of what you can do with your photo restoration and color restoration. Now, we didn't get into colorizing a photo, but just don't be afraid to take those old photos that are going to continue to deteriorate and make them digital. You can not only have some fun along the way, and you can also not get so caught up in, oh, that little thing in the corner I can't fix. If that little thing in the corner has no meaning, then just get rid of it. It's okay. Stick to the main subject of the photo. All right, let's look at and see if we're getting last minute questions. Yes, I am working on the screen. It's called a Wacom Cintiq 27 QHD. Don't go. Oh no, I have to go. It's my time to go. Someone's up next. All right. Who's up next, by the way? I missed it when you guys told me. And again, if you're watching this live, you can, or you came in late and you want to watch the replay, you can do that at terrywhite.tv or here on Twitch at twitch.tv/Adobe. It will be one of the past broadcasts. It'll also be on my YouTube channel. I invite you to check back in on my show every Tuesday and Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern till noon Eastern. And it will typically be around Lightroom and Photoshop related, although I do dabble in other things from time to time. So with that said, also feel free to follow me here on Twitch. Sometimes I get inspiration that happens in between shows, and I do them on my own Twitch channel at twitch.tv/Terry L. White. All right. Molten Ink is up next, and it's time to say goodbye and switch over to Molten Ink. Guys, take care. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.